Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. This is going to be the, last Avatar video of the year, and it's going to be the 2022 Avatar and Korra story and merchandise preview. So this will be the third of three videos I always do to round off every year. You've already seen earlier, I think the end of November, I put out my top 5 Avatar and Korra story moments from 2021 video. Just a little bit ago, I put out my 2021 Avatar Year in Review video, and this, like I said, is the preview for next year. So we have a lot to cover here, and before we jump in, I just want to briefly mention once again that I do have YouTube channel membership enabled on my channel. So if you want to support the channel, you can do so by just clicking the join button anywhere on the channel, or there is a link in the description to the same button where the button goes to. I have 2 tiers available, Light Spirit and Avatar at 1 and 5 respectively. You get the loyalty badges and custom emojis you can see on screen here at both tiers, and the loyalty badges will show next to your name in the comment section and in live chat, and you can also use the custom emojis in the comments and live chat. The main benefit you get for the higher tier is that you will gain access to my exclusive kind of YouTube channel member and Patreon exclusive videos, which recently have been mostly video game videos of me playing games such as Fortnite. I'll have a Halo Infinite campaign video coming up soon, but there's Hitman, Forza, a variety of different games up on there, plus a bunch of other stuff as well. And it's different stuff than I usually do on my channel. I don't put any of my Avatar videos kind of behind this sort of kind of paywall here. So it's all stuff that I don't think would do too well as an individual video, but just a sort of, an extra stuff. That's what's going on there. So if you want to support the channel, the join button is available. But yeah, let's jump in with the 2022 preview. And unlike previous years, we actually have to start here. Previous videos, I'd always start off with the books because the comics and novels, if there is any novels, have always been sort of the highlights of previous years, because for the most part, we've been in an era of Avatar and Korra where comics are typically sort of the most we have to look forward to. But because of news that happened much earlier this year, Avatar Studios announcement, we do actually have some big things that we're looking forward to. And so we have to start our speculation ahead of next year by talking about what we expect from these bigger projects. So let's start with Avatar Studios here. So after a year of basically zero communication, 2022 will have to be where they give us our first proper update on Avatar Studios. Because I think the thing to realize is that we got a couple of tiny updates on Avatar Studios throughout the year, but none of it was actually sort of an official communication from the people working at Avatar Studios specifically about Avatar Studios. We had to sort of search through any interview that was related to people in any way involved in Avatar Studios to find them saying something that referenced Avatar. There's never been an official update about Avatar Studios. So outside of that February announcement, everything else has just been scattered information and not even that much information. So next year, I think we have to see a proper update to Avatar Studios because we still don't know that much about it after this year. At the very least, we would expect the first project, the 2D/CG movie, to be properly announced, given that it apparently went into production at the end of 2021. Again, are they going to confirm that when it does go into production? Is it already in production and we just don't find out about it? Where is the communication? But given that they announced the studio as having a large plan across multiple mediums, we probably should get a sense for the first phase or group of projects from Avatar Studios. They said the plan is to have an Avatar Studios project on Paramount Plus within 2 years of the launch of Paramount Plus. So that puts that as like the start of 2023, because Paramount Plus launched in early 2020. So, early 2021. So I don't know if they're necessarily going to be able to meet this, but this is what like the press release did say. It included Avatar as one of the properties that will have something on the platform within 2 years. I'm guessing they're going to basically extend that to basically mean under 3 years rather than just exactly 2 years, but we'll see how it goes. Based on interviews, it seems like the second project that they have going on is likely to be a series. The reason for this is that when we got the piece of information that the movie was going to be in CG, he also mentioned that they're also in development on an Avatar series. And given that they mentioned that they were doing like kind of spin-offs, movies, series, the fact that he specifically mentioned movie and series as the first two projects is likely to be the case. So that is good to know. And again, this is also just a situation of like, we're not just hoping, because of how big the Avatar Studios announcement was in theory, one announcement of one project kind of doesn't feel like enough. If they're putting the time in for like a whole year plus to just do the planning, when they finally do announce stuff, we kind of are right to have expectations that they announce more than just one thing, which is why I'm talking about it as in terms of like phases, that they announce that this movie, this series, this kind of spin-off series, this series of shorts, this is phase one. And then this final bit here, we would also hope that the delays and changes to stuff like the comics due to Avatar Studios will be sorted out in 2022. Hopefully we can get back to more significant stories being told in the comics. I would love to see a full content roadmap if this is being planned out as much as they are suggesting. So again, that's just along the same lines. If they're the only thing Mike and Brian effectively said this year about Avatar Studios is that they have a giant multi-phased plan that involves different eras and all this sort of stuff. And it's become kind of clear that this also has affected everywhere we get story content from, including the comics. I hope that this is a year where just everything gets sorted out, because it has been a while since anything, I think, truly significant has happened in the stories. You have to go back, I think, to The Shadow of Kyoshi for the last time we got really significant content. A lot of the short story stuff that we've got has been good, but I don't think it's the same level as what some of those comic trilogies in the past have been able to do. So there's a lot of pressure on Avatar Studios for 2022 to just communicate, to say something, because at the very least, like, they can't go, I think, 2 years without saying anything. They have to say something. And even if all that is sort of just kind of like a movie poster announcement of the movie, and a brief, introduction to the new art style that it's going to have, then that sort of is fine if that's all they have to say right now. But the other project that's big, that's happening, that's started to build up right at the end of this year, is Netflix live-action Avatar. It seems at this point that it's quite a bit ahead of anything Avatar Studios is doing, so we're likely to see proper details on the live-action show well before we see stuff about the Avatar Studios stuff. So what we know about it so far is just that filming is happening right now, and will for the next few months until May 2022, when filming for the first season is expected to conclude. More casting announcements, I assume, will happen as they go through season 1 and they cover each episode, and we get like who's playing Yue and who's playing this character. We find out which minor characters are included, which ones aren't included. And then probably the other big piece of news I'd expect would be our first look at the characters in costume. Maybe a first look at some of the CG stuff, just a sense for how visually it's going to look. Stuff like, how are they doing Aang's tattoo? Are they going full on Last Airbender movie style, or are they just going for the standard, blue arrow accurate to the show? Is that the way they're doing it or not? That's what I want to know and want to look at. Because that's been sort of the one, I suppose, maybe criticism you could have about this, is that they've announced quite a bit with casting and stuff like that, but they really haven't given us a look at what they're going for just yet. So the expectations would probably be then for a trailer and a release date more towards the end of the year. It could, I suppose, theoretically release late 2022, but early 2023 is probably a safer bet for when it will actually release, just because it probably will take some time to put the CG together. It depends on how good, I suppose, filming goes, and if they might have some delays, but I think it's pretty fair to say, late 2022, early 2023 is probably when we will see this actually release on Netflix. So, I think I'll have a little bit more to say about that later on in the video. But from here, we move into the books. So the usual thing I start the video off with, actually coming after two big projects. So let's take a look at what Dark Horse Comics have announced so far. So there's 7 books, 6 of them are here, the other one's the free comic. So we have the book 3 art book, second edition plus deluxe. With all the art books and also Beast of the Four Nations, you have to remember that there is also a deluxe version as well that comes with the slipcase, the lithograph, and so on. I'm just showing the new covers here. So February 15th, we have the book 3 art book reprint. We have the North and South Omnibus, February 22nd. April 12th, we have a new Korra comic, and that is Patterns in Time. It's an anthology, short story collection. June 14th, we have the Chibi Comic Volume 1, Aang's Unfreezing Day. Then on June 21st, we have the art of the animated series for Korra Book 4 Balance. And then I have a question mark after this just because I'm not sure if this is actually a finalized date or not. It seems very quickly to come after another big book, only like 2 weeks. Beasts of the Four Nations for like July 6th. I'm not really sure about this. I have a feeling this one probably will get pushed back more towards like October, September-ish, maybe even a little bit later, just because it is a full-on new book. It's at the point, like, we've known about this for like half a year at this point. We still don't know a lot about the exact details of this book, but it's going to be just as many pages as one of the other art books. So I'm assuming a lot of this is going to have to be completely new art of animals, a lot of completely new information that was never said at any point during the show. So this book will probably have a lot of time that has to go into it, but it's still in a very weird position of having never really been officially acknowledged by Dark Horse, despite us knowing about it for, like I said, half a year or so. But just look at the gap between the book 3 art book and the book 4 art book. It's like 4 months. I think they're going to have a similar gap between the book 4 art book and then this, which is a similar size and price point of book in Beast of the Four Nations. But you can see here, like, it's like 3 reprints and sort of 3 new books, with the Chibi comic being a very big unknown in that it's going to be a much smaller book. We don't even know if it's going to be canon necessarily. So it's a bit of a weird lineup of books. And the other thing to keep in mind with this as well is that some of these books are only coming out in 2022 because they really probably got delayed out of late 2021. Stuff like the book 3 art book and the North and South Omnibus, I had actually predicted for 2021 that those books would be out this year. And that was even being kind of very kind with the date estimates, but obviously a lot of stuff got delayed this year and they ended up getting pushed quite a bit into this year. So it looks like there's a lot of books, but you have to keep in mind delays mean there are a few more books at the start of the year than there usually would be. The final one, just recently announced, the Free Comic Book Day 2022 Avatar and Korra book. Free Comic Book Day 2022 is May 7th, 2022. We only have a preview of the cover here, but at least we have something to go on with the art. Avatar is the main story this time out, with Korra being the sort of support story. But, this was a surprise hit with the story content last year, and I assume it will be much the same this year as well. It's always nice to have these sort of extra books as we go forward. So, next, we actually have another kind of unique thing, and it is a book, and that is the Avatar Legends role-playing game is going to be released in 2022. So you can see here the big thing with this is obviously it also has been delayed. The PDF apparently is still scheduled for January 2022. We'll see if they stick to that. But they are now saying the physical, the delivery, the shipping is going to be more happening in June, August 2022, so summer 2022. But this is a book that's going to obviously help you play the Legends role-playing game, and they've also said that there is going to be new canon information in these books, both the standard book as well as the Wan Shi Tong's adventure guide. If you got enough tiers to get the adventure guide as well, there will be new information on stuff like Roku's era as well as Wan Shi Tong himself. So this book is actually going to be, I think, a more notable release than you maybe think. Even if you're not interested in the game itself, the book itself, I think, will have good information in it. Then just some select other books. We have the Cookbook Gift Set with Apron out June 14th. We have this kind of mysterious right now Avatar The Last Airbender flying Appa figurine that also comes with a book that will, I suppose, have information about Appa. For the most part, it's kind of like a gift item that you're more buying for the figurine rather than any significant details being in the book. You can see it says on sale May 2022, but everything else is pointed towards August 9th being the release date right now. And then we do have a Screen Comics for this year, but it's a different format. So it's Zuko Finds His Way, covering what seems to be Zuko's early Book 2 story. So for anyone following the Book 1 Water, Volume 1, 2, whatever, Screen Comics, they seem to have dropped that and switched over to this format, if you're still at all interested in Screen Comics. So in terms of speculation about books that we don't know about for like the second half of the year, 2022 is the 10th year anniversary of Korra. So it would be a good year to finally start the next Korra comic trilogy. Avatar Studios has a lot of things up in the air, but we know a trilogy was in the works. This was confirmed multiple times, referenced a few times, even though we never got it like officially announced. New stuff will need to be announced by Dark Horse for the second half of the year. And like I said, the anniversary, the fact that we've been waiting for a proper Korra comic for a while, it fits. Anyone saying that I think the anthology Patterns in Time sort of takes up the slot, I don't necessarily think so, because it's a very different book. A lot is going to depend on Avatar Studios and what they do and what they allow them to do in terms of new story content, but I think this would just be a big announcement to have towards the end of the year, is to finally announce that third Korra comic trilogy. The other thing is that obviously there's no proper mainline Avatar comic either. As you can see, there's no ATLA comic on the schedule beyond reprints and the Chibi comic, which is questionable in terms of its canon, whereabouts in canon we put it. So I do think it makes sense to think that more one-shot comics are coming. Why do 3 books and leave a new format behind so quickly? A collection of the first 3 should also happen at some stage. I'm actually surprised that didn't get sort of announced towards the end of the year. A library edition collecting Katara and the Pirate Silver, Toph Beifong's Metal Bending Academy, and Suki alone. I think it will happen eventually, but they're obviously a bit behind on announcements and stuff like that. Imbalance Omnibus edition should get announced. The only thing that maybe makes me question that is just that the spine image on the omnibus editions is complete after the first 5 books, so I don't know how they're going to do that necessarily. But it seems weird to leave it out, given that there are 6 Avatar comic trilogies, and then also the one-shots are actually in a trilogy as well, so I'm not sure what way they're going to do that. Which then makes you think about, what about Korra omnibus editions? Again, it's the anniversary. If you're doing reprints for all the Avatar books, why not for the 2 Korra books that we have also? I think it would be cool to see, but we'll see if they actually go ahead with it. This is just speculating about any possible books that there could be next year. They've been on quite a run of reprints, so I can't see them stopping that now. Because they're going to run out of reprints pretty soon if they, stop with North and South, and they're done with the art book reprints this year as well. So they're going to need to have some stuff going forward as well. And then finally, the German publisher of Avatar books suggested that a new novel is coming in 2022. The Kyoshi books were hugely popular, so a new novel should happen. This shouldn't really be a question, but there's been no information for the most part outside of just that sort of tease, speculation, whatever, from the German publisher. They seem to have some element of inside information if they are suggesting that there's a novel for 2022. But I don't know. Outside of it just feeling like it makes sense, there's nothing really to back it up. But it's just so popular, they can't not do them anymore. So that's the thing to speculate about. So in terms of looking at this as sort of a list and there's different styles of books, this is sort of what I have so far, being, not looking ahead too far, still having a little bit of a negative view going into the future, that I really don't think things are going to change too much compared to last year, which was pretty light, going into this year. But you can see here we have the Book 3 Change Art Book 2nd Edition, North and South Omnibus, Korra Patterns in Time, Zuko Screen Comic, the Free Comic Book Day book, Aang's Unfreezing Day, the Cookbook Gift Set, the Book 4 Balance Art Book 2nd Edition, Beasts of the Four Nations, the Appa Figurine Book, Avatar Legends Role-Playing Game, Imbalance Omnibus, getting into the sort of not confirmed, more speculation stuff. Korra Comic Trilogy 3 Part 1, that's the Korra comic we're hoping to get announced. ATLA One Shot Trilogy 2 Part 1, we're also looking for that to get confirmed at some point. Turf Wars Omnibus would sort of make sense for the anniversary year. Avatar Novel number 3 would be a very nice addition to the year if we had it. And then right at the end I have Katara, Toph and Suki One Shot Library Edition, like I explained about earlier on. I held back really heavily when it came to doing this exact image from the previous year, and I still missed out on a lot because I obviously had sort of Korra Comic Trilogy 3 Part 1 last year and it didn't happen. So it's hard to say where exactly things are, just because Avatar Studios has clearly had a big effect on the comics, but it's an effect that we don't know much about specifically until Avatar Studios sort of explains itself. So we'll move from there into the merchandise. So this was a big thing for 2021, was just how much merchandise there was. And it looks like it's going to be much the same, if not better, for 2022. So there's a lot to cover here. So let's go through this. So we'll start with McFarlane Toys. So this was a big announcement that we had, I talked about in the version of this video for last year. Like, McFarlane Toys announced that they're doing stuff. This time out, we actually got to see some of the stuff throughout the year, and we do have a few announcements ahead of next year. But now that it's kind of up and running, we roughly know the way things are going to go. So the only announced new McFarlane figures are the 3 5-inch figures pictured here. So you can see we're going to get Iroh, Toph, and an Avatar State Aang. And that's just like the initial announcement. There could be other figures. There likely will be more figures, but that's all we know about so far. We expect probably 2 to 3 waves of both the 5-inch and 7-inch figures, along with hopefully another animal figure like the Appa that we got from 2021. It would be cool if we got like a dragon or a badger mole or even a Komodo rhino or something like that. And the main speculation here is just about what characters are they going to do. They did a lot of the introductory characters, so we got like a lot of Aangs, a lot of early Team Avatar, a lot of Book 1 Zuko. Hopefully as we go forward, we'll get closer to those sort of Mei, Ty Lee figures that some of the other lines that have been going a little longer are getting more towards. That's been the only frustrating thing about having, this many action figure lines. It should be incredible, but it is frustrating for every wave 1 to almost be the exact same. And it's just like, I don't need to see another Book 1 Aang action figure again, as far as I'm concerned. I just want to get to some of those characters that we haven't ever had before. That's what I'm more interested in. And then the last thing with McFarlane is just that they do have the Korra license. Part of their announcement last year, back in 2020, at the end of 2020, was that they have the license for Avatar and the license for Korra. Now, no news came out throughout 2021 about Korra stuff from McFarlane, but again, 10-year anniversary is 2022. It feels like the perfect time to put out some figures. Now, will they go as heavy as on Korra as they did with Avatar, or will they only do Korra figures at one of the scales? It's hard to tell what exactly they're going to do, but I hope we do see it this time out. I feel they probably will, just because they did announce both of them at the same time. It made sense to do Avatar first because it in general is the more popular of the two sort of parts of the franchise, but this is a big year for Korra coming up. They should get Korra action figures. The first Korra action figures as well, so that's pretty significant, because even going in to next year, like outside of this and like I think one other company who's doing one figure, no one else is really doing Korra action figures, so they might have an advantage there, McFarlane as well. Next, Diamond Select toys. So we've had these for a few years now. So what are they looking at for 2022? So wave 5, 6, and probably 7 of these figures should release in 2022. That said, they only got 2 waves out last year, so maybe the 7 is a bit too much in terms of speculation. So far, we only know about wave 5, which is Blue Spirit Zuko and Iroh, which you can see in the pictures there. We know they are working on more gallery dioramas, like the Aang, Katara, and Zuko that they released, but nothing has been announced yet. Toph is probably highly likely to be the next one, since they've done a character for 3 out of the 4 elements so far, and Earth is next, and Toph is the obvious character to have as the big Earth diorama initially. So I'm looking forward to the next gallery diorama announcement, as well as what they do for future waves, just because like Diamond Select are sort of the furthest in. It's unfortunate that they only do 2 figures per wave, but you know, this is our first ever Iroh action figure. Blue Spirit Zuko is I suppose nice to see, but again, waiting for the first Ty Lee action figure, the first May action figure. That's, I think, more where the fandom is at this point. Next, the Loyal Subjects. So Loyal Subjects will have a wave 2 and probably wave 3 of their best action line, in addition to their newly announced Chibi line, be released in 2022. So you can see here, best action, they have Book 3 Aang, Cosmic Aang, that's the purple kind of crazy Cosmic Aang they have coming out, Katara, Sokka, Zuko, Toph, Jet coming out. So there's a picture of Jet and the Aang in packaging. Again, a lot of these are renders, so I didn't feel the need to put all the pictures in because they're not overly representative of the final figure. And then again, we only have renders of the chibi figures, but they look pretty accurate for the most part to the chibi designs. So they're doing Aang, Zuko, Katara, Sokka, and Toph. It was cool to see the chibi announcement, just to see that, oh yeah, that they're going all in on Avatar as well. They're not just including a little bit of Avatar in their best action line. They're doing a giant wave 2 for Avatar, so that's pretty interesting to see. Only problem with Loyal Subjects is that they are a little bit difficult to get outside, internationally, outside of America. Next up, we have QMX, who was a new company who took on the Avatar license this year. They released a few things, some Q-Pals, plushes, and the Aang Q-Fig. And we know they have a Q-Fig Katara and a Q-Fig Sokka coming in early next year, and likely more on the way. I suppose we'll probably get to see some Zuko stuff from them, Toph, and again, they'll begin to get into the other characters as they go forward. And again, the thing with a lot of these companies is it just Avatar, or do they also have the Korra license as well? That will be interesting to see as we go through next year as well. But yeah, I'm still waiting for my Aang Q-Fig to arrive, so I'll have a video on that when it does arrive. Next, only recently announced, U2s will be releasing a series of chibi Avatar figures in mid to late 2022. I think they've announced 6 of them, so they have Sokka, Toph, Katara, Aang, Appa, and Momo. A unique take on the chibi designs. It's more of the sort of U2's design, similar to the kind of Funko Pop aesthetic, but obviously more leaning in the direction of like the actual Avatar chibi designs. So another company doing it, cool to see, but I'm not sure how much interest there is necessarily in these, but I'm sure there are fans. And next, Funko. It's interesting in terms of the speculation for 2022 that there's not a ton to talk about right now, despite 2021 being a big year for Avatar Funko. And that's just because a lot of the stuff that was sort of announced for 2021 came out in 2021. The only pop, as far as I'm aware, that was announced that we know about that still has to come out is the exclusive Azula pop, which you can see pictured there. It's her during sort of the final battle, the final Agni Kai with Zuko. Other than that, all the other like exclusives, mainline pops have been released that have been announced so far. We did also get pop pins announced and released in 2021, so we may see more of them. But yeah, just to say that, 2021 had pretty regular Avatar pop reveals. Like, there was exclusives getting revealed all towards the end of the year, pretty much. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see more in 2022. Again, 10-year anniversary of Korra for 2022. There's a chance we might see more Korra pops in 2022, but I haven't really seen much about rumors for more upcoming Avatar or Korra pops. But I suppose that will more build up towards the start of next year. So that's that. Then, Good Smile Company. A late announcement in 2021, but Good Smile Company, who previously made a Korra Nendoroid back in 2016, are coming back to make more Avatar and Korra figures. And that's the significant thing here, is that they're doing Avatar and Korra. So they're making a Nendoroid Aang, and then a pop-up parade Korra figurine. That's more like a sort of anime figurine style thing. It won't have articulation. It'll just be a sort of small statue style figure. But cool that they're doing both, and I really do appreciate that. Avatar is so popular now, I'd be shocked if we don't see more Nendoroids and figures as they go forward. They're doing the main characters from both franchises, so I think it will only make sense that we see more of them. So that will be very exciting to keep an eye on. I know a lot of people are really into the Good Smile Company stuff because they make quality products. So nice to see one of the sort of Japanese companies on board. After the tease with that Korra Nendoroid from a few years ago, which was really good, they just didn't make anything else. So cool to see them back, and I hope we get the official reveals of what these figures are going to look like sooner rather than later. Last bit of merch just to cover that, Avatar at the moment in a period of heavy merchandising. Seems like every company has the Avatar license to do something with. So we're getting a little bit of everything. So many places have pins, t-shirts, glasses, just that sort of like apparel style merchandise that I couldn't possibly cover every single thing that's been announced this year. We have 2 companies doing Avatar subscription boxes, the Nick box, their Avatar box, and then Loot Crate have one just recently. Then you have other companies I didn't even mention here, like Figpin and Mego, which are continuing to do some Avatar releases. And it's just getting like pretty crazy, just the amount of stuff going on. And that, like, right at the end of last year, like Avatar Monopoly happened. That was sort of a good sign, a big sign for Avatar stuff. It's just really interesting to see just how much is happening. So next, the kind of final section for the most part in the video, and that is what are the big pieces of news that we expect throughout 2022? So I'll start off with this, just very general. Avatar Studios, anything. I really, for the most part, don't know what to say when it comes to speculating about Avatar Studios next year, just because of how bad this year was in terms of communication. Hyping us up that early in the year and then basically saying nothing. I can imagine next year going much the same, where they maybe say something at the next, like, February Viacom investors thing, and then really don't say much until maybe late in the year. But like I mentioned earlier on in the Avatar Studios segment, I think at the very least they have to sort of properly announce the movie. And what I mean by that is, like, give us the title, tell us what era it's set in. Like, is it an ATLA movie? Is it a Korra movie? Is it a Wan era thing? Is it a Kyoshi era thing? Or is it a new Avatar, a new era that we've never experienced before? They're the sort of things that I think we really need to get speculating. Because that's been probably, from a fan perspective, the most disappointing thing about Avatar Studios is that there's nothing to speculate about. Because the speculation is anything. because they've said they're willing to do multiple eras, cover a bit of everything. So every project that you could possibly imagine is probably on the table. But I want to know some specifics so we can start to get a little bit more specific with our speculation. So at the very least, the movie probably should get officially announced next year. I'd love a visual just to get a sense for like, here's this new art style that we're developing. That was probably one of the more significant things we learned in 2021 is that they are working on some sort of a hybrid 2D/CG art style, which I assume is meant to aid in Avatar Studios having a unique look and then help maybe cut down on how much time projects will take to make, something along those lines. But just more anything on Avatar Studios is going to be good. Just communicate. Establish what channels of communication you're actually going to have for Avatar Studios and just stick to them. Because the problem is at the moment, the Avatar social media channels, the Avatar YouTube channel, do not feel at all like official sources of information. And if they're suddenly going to start revealing Avatar Studios information, that's going to be a big sort of like shift. So I think they need to start that process sooner rather than later. Is there going to be an official Avatar website, Avatar Studios website, or what? They need to create a place where this is where we get the information from. So we're not just looking at Viacom everything, Paramount everything to try and find information. Where's the Avatar specific places? Because otherwise I think most people probably rely on fan channels like mine and, you know, other places to get news from. But we're just scavenging it from the weird places that this news happens to come out from. And that's the stuff that they need to fix. Similarly, Avatar Netflix live action. The stuff that I think we expect is going to be more casting information, first look, and by that I mean sort of like looks at the characters in their costumes, look at some of the sets, that sort of thing, what the CG maybe is going to look like. Trailer, I think, given that their filming is going to wrap up in like May, trailer's possible for the end of the year. Same with a release date. I can't see them releasing a trailer without some sort of a release date. I think a lot of that, the main stuff, is going to happen with it this year. Now, will we actually see the first season in 2022? I'm not sure. It's hard to not imagine some delay will happen. That will, at the very least, put it into early 2023. That's at least my speculation right now, where we'll get most of the hype material for 2022, but it'll actually come out in 2023. I think that's where I stand on it right now. Next. What is next for the novel? So this is where we're at. I think where a lot of this sort of news speculation is just, my speculation is just say something about this major part of the franchise, because you haven't in a while. And novels is one of those things. This ended up being quite a big thing that was missing throughout 2021, just not having one of these fan favorite things that we've had for the previous 2 years. And especially just no information either. Like, it was one thing not having a novel, it was another to just end the year with no announcement either. After the big Avatar Studios announcement expanding the franchise, the novels, which felt like beforehand when they were announced, like we're already expanding the franchise, to sort of put on hold for a year this thing that was doing so well, it felt really weird to just not have anything. So I think 2022 has to deliver some news on future novels. It doesn't even have to be a Kyoshi novel. Like, it would be cool if they did another one, because there's definitely room to do more with Kyoshi. But another Avatar, another era to go in line with sort of the Avatar Studios approach of, you know, doing stuff all over the universe, I'd be completely fine with that as well. I just want to see this format, Avatar in the novel format, continue going forwards. Similarly with the next one, it's like, what's next for the comics? Because this was a huge disappointment for 2021 to just have so few comic announcements, and the majority of the news about comics effectively being everything's been delayed. This has been delayed again. This has just been announced, but it's already been delayed, and another delay, and over and over and over again, and just asking the entire time, Where's the next Korra comic? Where's the next Avatar comic? Oh, you finally announced the Korra comic, but it's not the one we were necessarily really looking forward to. Cool that you're giving us this one, but where's the mainline books? And that's the problem of like, we're asking the questions now at this point because things are getting so bad. Like, are we fully shifting the comics away from ever telling important stories again, despite the comics being the place where we got The Search? What Happened to Zuko's Mom was told in a comic. We're moving that away and just, the best we can do is a short story about this thing. That's what I want to know, because it's, like it says here, it's been a messy few years. This is the time in 2022 to get things back on track. We need a sense of a larger plan and a shift back to more significant stories. Is Azula's story done in the comics? Will it continue via Avatar Studios, one of those projects? Or can it resume in a future book? That's a really obvious one. Like, that story's now been on hold for like 5 years, going on 6 years now. When will we get the rest of Azula's story, her arc? Similarly, Korra comics had only just started to get going. Like, you only just put out that second trilogy, Ruins of the Empire, and now they've been effectively put on hold again because it's been so long. Can we please get another trilogy again and get back on track? Or has Avatar Studios resigned Dark Horse to only doing short stories more in line with other licensed books, where the best you can hope for is a little short story that adds something? But we're not really used to that in Avatar, that the comics have been able to tell big, major, significant stories, but not for a while now. I'd love to see a comic-specific era, a unique story where the comics get to tell that story in full. I think that's something that I've been asking for quite a while now, and I'd like to see it happen in the sort of upcoming Avatar Studios era. Next up, a soundtrack at last. This is something I've been talking about quite heavily on the channel for the last few years, partly because Jeremy Zuckerman keeps on teasing the soundtrack. Like, the number of times he has responded to people and made it seem pretty clear that the soundtrack is going to happen, but then it's never actually been announced, is weird. But this year, the news that we got, less teases of the soundtrack and more, he joined Avatar Studios, one of the few people this year confirmed to be a part of Avatar Studios, and has been teasing progress on the soundtracks for years now. So now all the barriers are out of the way. He works for Avatar Studios. Avatar Studios is part of Nick Viacom. It existing highlights that Nick and Viacom have full confidence in Avatar and are supporting it fully. The amount of places putting out merchandise, the amount of sort of like Blu-ray re-releases for Korra and Avatar that they're doing. They are throwing money at this franchise. Why not do the same for the soundtrack? Because you have to know it would sell really, really well. What is currently standing in the way of these releases happening? Especially the Korra soundtrack in the 10-year anniversary year seems like an amazing way to celebrate the year. I get it. I think he said before, the Avatar soundtrack, if they do a release, would need to almost be remastered. I don't think that's necessarily the case for the Korra one, because they already released the Book 1 soundtrack. I'd love to see a complete Korra soundtrack get a release, and maybe them say something about what's happening with the Avatar soundtrack. But 2022, the year where I feel it's gonna be more of a transitionary year. The soundtrack, a key release, would be huge. I think it would be a very significant release, and I'd love to see it happen at last. If not just so we can stop relying on sort of weird sort of like YouTube compilations of like bits and pieces of the soundtrack to know what the soundtrack is. The amount of sort of misinformation almost, especially with the Avatar soundtrack, about what actually is the soundtrack is so kind of weird that it's still there in the fandom. Last real piece of news here before we end is just going to be Avatar mobile game. So late 2021, it was announced that Avatar does have a mobile game in development. Hopefully we learn more about it in 2022, and a successful mobile game could lead to us finally getting the big Avatar game we've all been wanting for years. even just the mobile game itself, like, you have to have some sort of excitement for it, just because it, things have been so kind of like all over the place when it comes to like Avatar and video games. Even a mobile game, even, I know a lot of people have issues with them because of like microtransactions, but you can fundamentally play a lot of the games for free, even if progress is sort of impeded if you don't put money into it. It'd be cool to see a well done Avatar mobile game. People will play it when it comes out, so hopefully we learn more about it in 2022. And I just felt the need to throw this in right at the end, just because it is Avatar game news, and it is something that could happen next year. So, to sort of round off, how do I feel going into 2022? I predict 2022 to be the last transition year for the franchise, where we will see the first glimpses of Avatar Studios, but it likely will not impact the year too much. We will still be relying on the comics and books to supply us with new content this year, so the expectations will still be all on Dark Horse. It looks like this will be a year of hype and build-up for the live-action show, and I suspect by the end of the year we will know more or less exactly what we're getting and have our expectations in check. As in, we will know which way this is going to go in terms of live action adaptation. Is it going to be another one like a lot of the recent ones that have happened, or is this actually going to be one that could actually work? I think we'll know those answers by the end of the year if they put out the right pieces of news. Merch should be even better than the already great 2021. We should get more Korra merch for the anniversary. We will see more unique characters in the figure lines, and even more companies will get involved in Avatar, such as Good Smile Company. In short, the year will be made, or not, based on the number of significant announcements related to things like new comics, new novels, and Avatar Studios information. 2021 levels of information would be hugely disappointing this long after the announcement of Avatar Studios, but if they really use 2022 as a hype building year for the franchise, it could be very interesting in that, like, if you imagine it and put it together like that, they make the right announcements. New Avatar comic trilogy, new Korra comic trilogy, new novel, proper information about Avatar Studios where we know what one or two of the projects are and have a maybe sense for what the rest of the kind of system is about. Plus, add on to that, like, lots of cool merchandise coming out. The Legends role-playing game could be a really cool thing that adds to the year. And then you add, like, we learn maybe something about video games, the soundtrack maybe hits. There's the potential for this to be a very, very strong year. But look how 2021 went. I had much the same expectations for 2021 when I did the preview there, of a lot will depend on if they announce the next Korra comic. And for the most part, they didn't. And even if you say they technically did, they left it until right at the end of the year. And there's still not a lot to say about it because it's not the Korra comic that we were necessarily expecting. So they need to have this year be a year where they actually communicate. You can give them last year in that they just made the initial announcement and didn't have a lot else to say. But this year, you approach maybe going 2 years without saying anything, and I don't think that's good enough. So that's more or less it for the video. They are my thoughts as we head into 2022. You have to be hopeful just because the way things are ultimately shaping up, but you also have to be realistic in that there was much the same expectations going into 2021. And while they were met in the sense for 2021 because we had a feeling something might happen in terms of the bigger future of the franchise, that did happen. We got Avatar Studios announced. But now that we have those expectations for Avatar Studios, they haven't, in the early days, met any sort of expectations when it comes to communication on it. And this is the year where that will be tested quite heavily. So, yeah, interesting year ahead of us, I'm sure. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. And I'll just wrap up by saying, once again, thank you to my Avatar tier channel members, Cash D's, Martine Monterosa, and Brittany M. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and Bye.